Well, guys, I think what we were concerned about happening has happened. Um, the sprout has occurred in many fields, most varieties. Still need to be checking those because some of them that were late maturing and a little harder skin may not have sprouted, but many have. Got a couple of loads rejected yesterday at Ligonier. The guy that reported, Gene Schmidt, called me and said that half the loads that brought into Ligonier yesterday were sent back. Sprout is something that happens when it gets too wet, obviously, and what happens within the kernel is when it becomes pregnant. As your wife, when she became pregnant, you couldn't see it, but it is, and the falling number is the number that affects that. So what they do when they get that sample in there is they make up a mush, and then they stir it up and warm it up, and then they put a stick in it, and that stick has to fall down. If that stick falls down in 330 seconds, you've got really sticky wheat. Okay, it's got good viscosity; it'll bake right. If the stick falls down in 100 seconds, it doesn't stick together well. It won't bake right, and they can't use it as flour. It won't fill the bag. It'll just lay in the bottom, and they'll wonder why it won't rise and that kind of stuff. It's because the wheat starch has turned to sugar as soon as it became pregnant. And so your falling number will go from 300 to 100 in a matter of hours, it seems like. Once that area or that moisture got into that plant, everything sprouts. It's just like planting it. You want it to sprout, but not while it's in the head. So what happens with that? We've already had some conversations with a couple of feed mills that are feeding a lot of pigs. Cooper's in Ohio, a couple of our farmers that do a lot of pigs now will have enough supply that they very well could put into a ration if they have the right hammer mill, a flour, a wheat as a part of their ration, which many of them like it because it has more energy than corn and will be able to be bought at a very, very competitive price. Um, a dollar off on Sprout, dude, get rid of it. Um, Test weight's always gone to crap if you've got Sprout, so you'll probably have a test weight bill too, or the doc too. Um, Again, why I always encourage guys: more combines, more power, more the merrier. 3 or 4 or 5 combines. Getting the job done is so important because I've seen this happen before where we got into trouble because we just couldn't get the job done. Now, for some of you that didn't have that many acres, you still couldn't get the job done because it rained so often. But crazy year. Good yields, really good yields, but this is something that's going to be in effect. If you want to contact me, just text me your bushels that you have of sprouted wheat. Now, for some of you that weren't able to segregate the bins, you started just put it in on top. Remember, the last load in will be the first load out the bottom. So you think, well, it's contaminated. Well, yeah, a little bit, but most of it will come out in the first load or two. That if you put in 2, take out 3, and you're back down into good wheat usually. Normally it doesn't contaminate the whole bin because the bin does unload from top to bottom. So once you get the V formed, you've got most of that out of there and got to get the walls ran down far enough to get past that stuff. And then you could be into good wheat in the bottom of a bin if you did contaminate a bin. If you've isolated it, let me know how many bushels you have. And again, we'll be talking to people over the next couple of days, weeks, trying to figure out a good place to move this. If your local dealership will take it, great. If they're not testing, get it moved immediately. But it's a big enough issue that everybody's going to know about it, and there will be answers. Not as pretty ones as the price, but there will be answers to figure out where to take this stuff. We'll keep you posted on that. But if you could let me know just how many bushels you have when somebody calls me and we get something put together, have something to be able to say, hey, I know of 14 guys that have wheat that is sprouted, they have it in the bin, they can deliver it. You want 100,000 bushel, we can get that. And we can get it over to you now so that they can put it in a ration for a whole year or for a quarter or for a period of time. It's always a challenge whenever you change a feed ration is you got to have enough stock to continue to change it. You can't just put 500 bushel of bad wheat into a feed ration. It's just not worth the time. But if you've got 50,000 bushel or 100,000, you can put it in for 6 months or a year. You can build that into your ration and into your costs, and we'll probably have more value in that in the future. So sorry about that, guys. Wish it wouldn't rain so much. Well, pertaining to that, Derek has just a few 1.6 beans, those ones we brought out of Wisconsin, left over in the warehouse for planting late double crops. Takes 90 days to get those guys mature. You plant them really thick, 300,000. And so I would still be able to plant wheat up through Fort Wayne through, I don't know, the 25th, 26th. I think I could probably do it with this kind of moisture. They'll be out of the ground in 3 days. Ground coverage in 14 days, if they're that thick at 300,000. Drill them is probably the best way to do it. And you can get this thing done still in double crop and look at capturing some of those beans. Because, I think October 25th, we still have a good chance of having good weather to harvest beans. It's a double crop. That's why I like those early beans that come off nice. We've seen them yield as high as 40 bushel. Planted October 20th 2 years ago, and last year, even without the water, they made 28, 27, and 28. So very acceptable yields that variety is putting out. It's non-GMO. Burn it down, make it clean to start. Syncor if you like, if you want. Add a little bit of that, and then come over the top with a grass herbicide. It's about as simple of a herbicide program as you can have. You got to put a cover crop down. You got to control weeds anyway. Cost of the beans are $31. Get them done. 2 bags, two and a quarter bags, 2 and a little bit. We'll give you 300,000. Get some beans in the ground. Still, don't be afraid of it. We can make this happen. Guys, hang in there. See you, buddy.